NottsRockCast is an association with Regular Riot. Welcome to NottsRockCast, the Notts Alternative Scene podcast. And here is your host, Jethro D, bringing you everything Notts and rock.
Welcome to NRC-006 over YouTube. Yes, today we have Lewis Phillis, the guy who introduces the podcast. We did a chat a little while back, and hopefully by the end of 2020, we're going to have a second round of chatting with him. So anyway, check us out, hit that subscribe button and ding that bell. Let's get on with the chat.
Basically, you can select exactly what you want to see.
Oh, right.
So it basically just modifies Facebook.
Yeah.
And until they change it, and then you've got to wait for a bit for them to catch up because they change all the code and everything. But
No, that's really cool because I have got really used to using the unfollow button. So
Yes.
I have unfollowed my mum.
yeah, I've unfollowed quite a few people as well.
Right, I met Lewis at the No Hate Festival a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He was actually performing. He was a really interesting chap to get to know because I was asking about his pedal board. So we're probably going to touch on a lot of musician stuff today.
Geek
but
fest.
I'm sure it's going to be very interesting. Would you like to introduce yourself a bit more?
Yeah, I'm Lewis. I'm the lead singer from Beck and Lane. I've been doing music for 17, 18 years. I play guitar and a bit of an multi-instrumentalist as well, but, you know, most of those I can't really claim to be a keyboard player. I can play bits and write bits on keyboard, but I can't really play keyboard.
Just like me.
And same with, I've got mandolins and all sorts of stuff. I've been eyeing up, pricing up hurdy-gurdies and sitars because they're the next thing to add to my collection.
That's cool.
But I like using samples and stuff, but I'd love to be able to just record the actual instruments themselves because there's still something I think that you can lose with MIDI. It's I do a bit of everything.
I was going to say, a couple of £100 sitar or VST for £5 on the market.
Yeah.
If you don't know what a VST is, it's a virtual studio instrument. But no, it's what they do when they're on the computer and they press the keyboard and it comes out sounding like a guitar and not a piano. Right then, I like to say when we start the podcast, if you could give us a quote of inspiration that you have learned from your time in Notts.
Well, I've been in Nottingham my whole life, so probably rob for the rich and steal, give to the poor. No, when I was younger, there was. It's not really related to being Nottingham, but the one that's always stayed with me is it was as I kind of got into rock and metal and things. It's from Bruce Dickinson and Iron Maiden. It's nothing lasts forever but the certainty of change.
Oh, right.
And I quite like that because you kind of. I think it kind of brings in the whole taking things for granted. When something's good happening, really appreciate it at the time because it won't last forever. And also, if you're in a bad situation, it's never going to last forever. You know, people can see it as a more pessimistic way of looking at things, I suppose, but I quite like the positive aspect of that.
No, I think that's really cool.
But I do like rob from the rich and give to the poor as well.
I agree with that. To be honest, I'm poor, so if anybody wants to provide me with some money for a new amp, I'm quite happy on that one. Are you originally from Notts then?
Yeah, Nottingham born and bred. I was born in City Hospital just down the road.
Oh, right, okay.
Been in Sherwood my entire life. I moved to Radford for a short period and then Leicester briefly for about 10 months as well.
Yeah.
But it's mainly been, I'm back in Sherwood again now. It's where all my family is and it's my hometown, so.
No, I think that's absolutely cool. I've had quite a diverse lot on so far. So we've had Tony from Durham, Pixie from Nottingham again. We've just had Matthew Wilson on. He was from Nottingham.
Yes. Yeah.
And Dave Everett, who was from South Africa.
Yes, yeah.
So, Nottingham seems to attract everyone.
It's a nice melting pot, I think. Like the amount of, local slang and stuff that I've picked up. Like I can remember back in, like when I was in my early 20s, everyone used to be like, if you wanted a cigarette or anything, it used to be like, oh, I'm going to nip for a snout.
A snout?
Yeah, snat or snout. And it's basically, if you, can you remember Porridge, the series Porridge?
Yeah.
It's like, it was prison slang, basically. So what they'd do is they'd say snout, so the guards don't know that they're dealing with cigarettes.
Right, okay.
It's just regional dialects and regional words for things. And the amount of things you kind of pick up just being out and about. But yeah, it is a melting pot, and it's brilliant because you get to meet people from all over the country and all over the world in some cases.
Yeah, I must admit, having the universities, you do meet everyone from around the world.
Nottingham is more of a university city nowadays, I think it was, than like 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, it's nice to meet people from all over. And also it's making contacts and stuff, because then if they decide to go back or whatever, then you know somebody in different places.
Yeah, okay.
It's quite handy especially when you're trying to find places to gig.
Yeah. I was going to say, how do you find it getting gigs around the place, having all these contacts?
It's one of those things, like, I think that's one of the benefits about social media. I think in the long run, you can speak to people from so many different places. And if you want to gig in Manchester, you know, I know people from Manchester, so I just go, what's the best places to gig? And they'll list 3 or 4 places. Yeah. And this one's the biggest one, and, you know, you get the smaller, kind of more pub-based venues, and then you get the bigger, like Rock City-based ones as well. So Rock City-sized ones, should I say? But yeah, it's not too bad. Like, we've been over the past kind of 5 years with the band, we've been pretty local. We've done 1 or 2 a bit further out, but in bands in the past, I've played as far north as, you know, Glasgow and stuff, and down to London, and
pretty well toured then.
Well, yeah, I've been to Belgium as well, but yeah, it's like, you know, it's just who you know, I think, and I always quite like talking to people, just so you get to know places without having to necessarily go.
Okay, that's interesting. I must admit, from my own personal views, because I've come from down south. Now, the rock scene wasn't as lively back then, especially in Reading, but now it seems like I'm hearing everything's going off in Reading.
Yeah,
that's really weird.
Yeah, it's kind of opposite to Nottingham, really, because, like, even though it's picking up again now, it went through. There was something I noticed. It was almost like in the early 2000s. It was around about the time when all your X Factors and your pop idols and stuff all started. Everyone started then doing Battle of the Bands, and you found that promoters were trying to compete with each other all the time. And, you know, trying to vilify each other and slag each other off. And so the music scene, like, we had Junction 7 in Nottingham, which used to be a, you know, really brilliant place to gig. And then you found that because of that, it kind of killed the Nottingham scene, because everyone's instead of nowadays where you've got, you know, one promoter puts one thing on and then they'll go, well, somebody else will not put something on the same night because they know that there's that on, so they'll go, well, nothing's going on that weekend, so we'll do that. They actually used to try and put it on the same night to steal people from that night.
Oh, okay.
So what you're getting is, because obviously you've got a smallish, you know, rock community anyway. Yeah. You know, say smallish, it's still big, but what you're getting it split. So then both places don't really pull a big crowd, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. And I hate when that happens.
That was kind of mid-2000s. Yeah. There was a lot of early mid-2000s. A lot of that was happening. So it's quite nice now that everyone's working kind of so well together, and they're very aware of the fact that, you know, there's other places putting on different things and tailoring things to suit. So if somebody's got more like glam stuff on, then somebody will put on more just an alternative metal night or something, because they're completely different audiences, rather than going, we're going to put our glam metal night on the same night as that, because, you know,
and then go take flyers.
to try and pull people from there.
Hessian bag waiting around the corner. Okay, then. This is the part where I actually ask what your profession is, but like we were talking earlier, did you want to go into any of that?
Yeah, I can do a little bit. I've actually, I'm out of work due to health reasons. I've got ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome. Yeah. I've had that for about 16 years. I managed to kind of get into work, and then 4.5 years ago, I had kind of, it got worse again. So unfortunately, that's kind of my situation at the moment, but I still try and do music stuff. I think there's a really, there's a bit of a bad image about kind of, especially I know other people with ME or fibromyalgia and stuff, and they're all generally musicians. You know, a lot of them are musicians, so people kind of, you know, they meet me out, or they'll see me on stage and be like, well, you can't be that ill if you're up on stage, but they don't realise that you pay for it for like a week, 2 weeks afterwards.
Yeah, that's the one good night of the rest of your week, isn't it?
Yeah, because the thing is, it's not just, as you know yourself, it's not just half an hour on stage. It's like a 10-hour day.
Yeah,
and so it's a tiring day at the best of times. So it has a knock-on effect. But I've not been out a hell of a lot recently because I know what affects me, and you learn how to work around it to some extent. But you can't just stop doing it, otherwise you'd go absolutely insane, I think.
Well, I think you would go absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Like I keep explaining to people, I do what the best part of a 50-hour week.
Yeah.
So I do 40 hours actually at work. I do an hour getting there, an hour getting back.
Yeah.
By the time I'm back, I will do 2.5 hours sat in my studio, and I'll be making the podcast. I'll be working on other band stuff. I'll be working on my own projects that I've got going on, or I'll be working on promotion, website stuff. And it does take a toll. So for anyone with what you've got, I couldn't actually imagine that myself.
Yeah, I think the most frustrating thing, and as I say, I know other people with it as well, is the fact that you've just got to plan out every fart's end. You've literally got to think, well, what am I doing today? How much is that going to take out of me? What effect is that going to have? What have I got over the next few days? So if I do this and accept the kind of repercussions from doing it, is it going to affect anything over the next few days?
Yeah.
And then if you've got something else that you need to do, then you've got to go, I can't do that then. It's a horrible thing because it's not really, you can't see it. I think that's the biggest thing. People kind of go, oh, well, I get tired all the time. Best way I've figured out of describing it to people is imagine pulling an all-nighter and getting like an hour's worth of sleep and then waking up and you're hungover to hell, your stomach's roiling, you feel sick as hell, your body aches, you're totally drained. That's generally a daily feeling.
Oh, God.
And it gets to a point where, you can't even get out the house and you're bedbound, and you get good days and bad days.
Yeah.
And generally, if I'm on a good day, it means that I've not done anything in the previous week that's going to have a knock-on effect. Yeah, it's fortunate that there's so much more awareness of chronic illness and stuff nowadays.
Is there any charities or anything that's worth mentioning?
There's a few things going on. There's a lot of study going on at the moment. I've been following a few studies. There's one going on. I think it's Sweden. A couple of doctors up there. There's I can't think of the name of the place off the top of my head, but there's a website. And it's basically, you can donate to it, but it's you get like weekly letters on, what they've discovered more recently, and it's looking like it's more of a mitochondrial issue, so more actually in the cells.
Oh right, I was about to say I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, it seems that the way it works, what seems to be happening is your body's going into starvation mode. So whereas you've got your carbs, your fats, and your protein, what will happen is it'll completely overlook the carbs and the fats and just start affecting protein, which is why then you get the pain in the muscles and everything, like fibromyalgia is obviously the extreme of it.
I understand that one.
So it's actually breaking down proteins and amino acids to kind of fuel the body.
Oh,
and this is something they actually weren't even looking for this. This is something that they were testing. I think it was a cancer drug or something to see if there was any benefits.
Yeah.
Which that study completely failed, and they went, nope, there's no difference. This is just a bit dangerous, if anything. But then they found this cellular activity, so they've been looking into that. So fortunately, looking on the positive side of things, they found something. And they know it is actually a biological, physical thing. It's not all just in your head. Like doctors were telling you for years. Like they've stopped doing that now. But yeah, it was a thing where they're like, exercise more.
Well, of course they've stopped doing it. They're going to get sued.
Well, it's like even the NICE. The NICE, like on their website, they're reviewing it now. But it was always, just do more exercise. And speak to anyone with any kind of ME or fibro, and they'll be like, that makes it worse.
Yeah.
Like, there's one thing trying to push yourself and keep pushing yourself. I always do that, but I'm not.
I've complete opposite to that, because when I do exercise and when I do actually get on with stuff, it uplifts me.
Yes. Yeah.
So I can't really imagine it being the other way around.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, and I what's the word called?
You become sedentary.
If I become sedate in what I do during the day, I become a lot more down. But even this time of the year, I actually suffer from the SADS disorder,
I get
seasonal affective disorder. So at the moment, I'm taking vitamin D. Shout out to all the listeners. If you're not taking vitamin D, take vitamin D, because whether you think you need it or not, you do need it. I keep telling everyone this, and I keep saying, with anything like that, you've got to give it 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You can take vitamins and stuff, but it won't affect you until 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, it doesn't go in your system. It takes time to build up. But yeah, it's the way, I suppose the way of seeing it in your situation is, imagine your bit of movement or exercise or whatever. Imagine that being a full marathon.
Yeah.
You're suddenly you suddenly, like, and that's the effect that you get every time you even just go to the shop and back on certain days. Like, it's gonna be very difficult to validate doing that.
Well, yeah.
For the repercussions, because you're going to be knackered for days afterwards. So you're not going to be able to do it every single day. As I say, I'll try and do bits on good days. I'll always, I've got some weights and stuff, so I'll try and do a little bit. I try and move around the flat, so I'm not just sat all day every day. If there's things I need from the shop, sometimes I'll only get one or two of the things, so I have to go back the next day. Just to get me out. So I don't want, like, I don't agree necessarily with being completely, sedentary or sedentary. What is the word? Sedentary.
I don't know.
Chipping over my words. So it's like, you've got to do a little bit of something, but the way they were talking about it is, build up your exercise as if you were just healthy, and it doesn't work. And they've figured that, and more doctors turned around. So the NRC are apparently sorting that out. So I don't know when it's going to change, but it's nice to know that there's it's been taken a bit more seriously. Because it's just not a nice thing to have to deal with, but it could be worse.
Okay,
that's how I see it. It could be worse.
Right. Talking about the musician side of you,
yes,
what compelled you to do what you do with music?
Iron Maiden.
Yes,
I was
I must admit, you said earlier, one thing I didn't realise about Bruce Dickinson, he uses a condenser mic on stage.
Yeah, Beta 87C is what he uses. Yeah, I was into, like, a lot of the chart music. I got brought up on everything from Northern Soul to Motown to all sorts of stuff, pop music and everything.
Any favourite Northern Soul or Motown? Stick a YouTube video on so people have a listen.
Not really off the top of my... Nothing I can that springs to mind off the top of my head.
Okay.
It was what my parents kind of were into, so we kind of heard that, and it was everything from the Rolling Stones, Eagles, Dr. Hook, Meatloaf, Cliff Richard, Elvis, the Beatles. Like, my first ever gig that I went to when I was 13 was the Drifters.
Oh, okay.
So I had a bit of taste from all over the place anyway. And when you're in school and stuff, you kind of start listening to what your mates were listening to and everything. And I got into a bit of R&B and what have you. And I used to listen to the charts, like you do when you're younger. You stick it on Sunday, and there's your top 40. And suddenly, and it was Iron Maiden, Wicker Man. And me and my brother were like, "What the bloody hell is that?"
That is by far my second favourite Iron Maiden song.
To be honest, I think that's probably my favourite album.
Yeah?
But I think, I don't know whether that's not an objective thing. I think that's just because that's what got me into, like, rock and metal. And my brother started playing guitar straight away. I didn't jump in as quick as he did. Probably took me another 8 months to really get into it. And then I started listening to stuff and, getting more and more into it. And then with all my health situation, everyone went off to university at the time, because I was at college when it all kind of kicked off. And they went off to university. I had to drop out of college. I was sat there with just getting more and more down and spiraling. Music was there. And my thing is always, if I can make one person feel like the songs that I was into and like the stuff I was listening to at the time feel, then that's kind of something, pay it forward. It kind of saved me on many levels, music. And that's why, it's just become more of an obsession, really.
It has so many health benefits. It doesn't matter what state you're in, there's always a type of music to listen to that actually brings you up. So I completely understand, keeps you going.
Yeah, well, they always say that it's the last true art form. because not everyone
I've
looks
never heard that said before.
Yeah, it's not everyone, goes to an art gallery. Not everyone reads anymore, but everyone listens to music. And every single person, like literally, I could ask you now, name a song that makes you feel, like an anger or or sadness or a happiness, and literally you kind of make these connections with. There's one song. It might not be anything like you listen to normally. It might be something from your distant past that stirs a memory.
Yeah,
but that's what I love about it. It's just you can convey so much emotion, and also you've got the benefit of tackling some very difficult subjects at times as well. A little bit like cartoons, I suppose, are a similar kind of thing. You can put really iffy subjects into a cartoon, or really difficult subjects, should I say, into a cartoon, and it's less kind of harsh, I suppose.
I think that's how South Park started.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's something that if I can kind of make people, if there's somebody that's, a kid sat around somewhere and they're feeling really down and they hear something that I've managed, I've actually created, and it makes them go, right, I'm going to follow my dreams and I'm going to do this, then that, as far as I'm concerned, that's the point of, why I do what I do. I think that's always been the case.
Yeah. And I've got to be honest. I listen to a lot of podcasts at work.
Yeah.
I listen to Working Class Audio, and I listen to the Recording Studio Rockstars.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put the links in the show notes, because if you're interested in the technical side of music, it's worth listening to. But they keep saying that nowadays you won't earn, you're very unlikely to make a living out of music. So seeing people have such a passion like you do, to be honest, they're the people that actually go on to make the money, which is really random.
Yeah, like obviously a lot of it is to do with the fact that the music industry has changed so much. Like I watch, there's Produce Like a Pro with Warren Hewitt.
Yes, my favourite producer.
What's the other one as well?
Glenn Fricker.
Yeah, Glenn Fricker. Like, but they're actually putting things out, and they're like one of Warren Hewitt's ones. He actually said, it's very difficult to make money doing this anymore unless you're already established. Because it's so easy to do nowadays, anyone can get a little studio at home and do their own thing. But there's a benefit, there's a positive and negative with that. And at the end of the day, if you're paying for a session musician, if you're paying for a producer or an engineer or a masterer, generally it's because they've got that much experience doing it. You're paying for experience. You're not paying for mastering, or you're not paying for mixing, and you're not paying for somebody to play the guitar. You're playing because of their experience. Yeah. So if you look at it that way, it makes a lot more sense. Best way of making money out of it is to become as experienced as you can doing it.
And create a style. Because that's the other thing you're paying for when you pay for a recording engineer or a mixing engineer, a mastering engineer.
Exactly.
You're paying for their style. You can stick two experienced engineers in the same studio with the same band. They're going to come out with two different sounds. Yeah. This is something that I love about recording engineering myself. I'm actually come from an engineering background, and I'm seeing it more and more, like I've been saying in other videos and stuff. I've said about a YouTube world, where people are watching these videos and they're going, oh, they've got an 1176. Yeah. I must have an 1176. I must put them at them settings.
Yeah.
No, buy any compressor, record something, and turn the knobs until it sounds like you want it to.
Well, you don't even have to even buy anything nowadays. It's that much. We were talking earlier about, the free stuff. Yeah. And like the amount of free stuff, I've got on my computer that, equals or even exceeds the quality that you get with some commercial products nowadays.
Are you signed up to Waves as well?
Yeah, I've got Waves.
Did you get the free plugins over the Black Friday?
Yeah, there was one, wasn't there?
Yeah, there's the Sibilance one, and then on the Cyber Monday, they gave you the H compressor as well.
Oh, yes, I've got both of those. Yeah. The one that I did buy from them, actually, is the Omnichannel. Yeah. I really like that, just because you've got...
the Skeps?
Yeah.
Yes, I use that. I literally have just bought that, because Andrew's... Again, links in show notes. This
is going to get really geeky.
Andrew Skeps is is the guy that created Death Magnetic. People say that Death Magnetic was the pinnacle of the loudness wars.
Yeah.
And that is something that a lot of people have a lot of controversy about. Now, if you take, say, a certain political thing that's going on at the moment, that is nothing compared to the loudness wars of engineers, musicians, and stuff. It is one of these raging battles that seems to have gone on. Now, if you listen to Death Magnetic, actually on CD and not necessarily on iTunes or Spotify, because they actually turn the music down, but if you listen to the actual CD, it's loud. It's not just loud, it's crunching loud.
Yes, yeah.
And it's distorted, but it's beautiful.
It was one of it's the argument over dynamics, really, isn't it? It's like, squash all the compress it to the point where there's no dynamics. There's a lot of talk recently amongst producers and in that kind of scene. Now you've got iTunes and Spotify, like you say, they turn them down. They actually compress them. So what you're doing is,
which you can actually find the podcast on.
Yes. So it's all a case of, like, nowadays you're finding that engineers and producers and stuff are having to do 4 or 5 different versions of a mix master.
Yeah.
Because depending on what you're putting it on, so you can decide what compression you're putting on it, rather than something going through and then being flattened. But yeah. Back to the point, it's... I
must admit, I haven't listened to any of the podcasts back on one of these platforms yet, and I really must do, because I know I record the podcast. We sit here and we record the podcast like we're doing. We've got 2 microphones. We're kind of sat about 2 meters apart. Yeah. So we'll record the vocals, and then what will happen is I'll take the recorded files, I'll make sure I edit out any long gaps or any coughs, any splutters or anything like that. And then I'll compress it slightly to make sure the vocals are sounding more constant, or else you'd hear vocals going, oh, I'm really quiet like this. And as you just heard them, my voice completely cut out, because that's something called a gate. Yes. That stops all the background noise, because if I didn't have that on, you'd hear my Mac Pro in the background whirling away. But then what I'll do is then I'll raise everything up slightly, and I'll keep it at a level that's constant.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm not doing too bad a job at that. To be honest,
it sounds pretty good. What I've heard. I think some of these platforms, though, it's up to like kind of 14 decibels of compression and stuff. They're sticking on it, which is really, if you know much about kind of mixing and stuff, that's a hell of a lot.
Yeah,
on a full track.
14 is a big drop.
Squashing the hell out of it. So then you're getting very kind of dead sounding music, I think. So that's why, obviously, as I say, producers are doing different masters. So you've already met that criteria, and it's not being squashed, so you're actually getting it presented as you mean to. And
what I'll do as well is I'll stick on a couple of pictures of WAV files. Now, there's a visual representation like you've seen on when you go into your digital audio workstation. Yeah, you actually see the WAV files, and I'll put on 2 different WAV files, and I'll put a squashed one, which looks like a big cube, and then a dynamic one, like we're talking about here about dynamics, which has got lovely little peaks and valleys to it, so you can actually have a look at it now. This is weird saying that. You can actually look at it now and then see the difference about before and after compression.
Well, you've obviously got 2 completely different areas. You've got some people that just like everything loud and they want everything kind of that big sound. Yeah. But then you add dynamics in, and you've got a bunch of people that just like, we'll just record it like we used to. Let's keep a quiet bit supposed to be quiet. It's not supposed to be the same volume as the loud stuff. But, again, like you were saying, it's almost producers and masters and stuff, they're artists themselves. It is an art form itself to create your style. And some people like it very compressed, and some people go to a producer that does that. If you want everything natural and dynamic, then go to a producer that does that. And as I say, I think the way of making money out of it is to literally find your niche, I suppose. Well, exactly. And get the experience, and then people will pay for you to do what you do on it. Don't try and necessarily be too flexible. I'd probably say you've got to be flexible to some extent, but I think if you kind of do too much of everything, then you've not really got a specific style. Yeah, and people are, I don't know, have to think on that one.
I completely understand where you're
talking
going.
myself out of it, yeah. I'm talking myself in circles.
So with what time you spent in the studio as an artist, what would you say is the best thing about recording in the studio?
I really like the producer's input.
Right.
I think sometimes they'll come up with things, 'cause it's like having a completely separate ear. They'll come up with things that you don't necessarily think of yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll go, oh, how about doing this? And you go, that's good, or that's horrible, and you can kind of make your own decision at the time.
Yeah.
I really like that extra input. But it's all right. Like you can do, I suppose you can do things to some extent. It's like kind of doing a gig with just your friends and asking them what they think of the new songs, and they might go, oh, I'm not really keen, and maybe change that bit and da-da-da. Whereas you've actually got somebody that knows what they're talking about, like telling you how to do this. And there have been things that we've added and taken out, depending, like melody-wise especially, with me doing vocals, just going, oh, how about doing this or doing that? And it's like, oh, that might actually work, and, whack a load of takes out, and then we can listen to them back and decide which we want. But I really like that aspect of it. Obviously, there's the ease factor as well. You don't have to learn everything yourself.
Yeah.
But
because I tried explaining, because my little brother, who actually listens to these, so he's going to be like, oh, he's talking about me. He actually asked me what I actually do when it comes to recording. Yeah. And I had to explain to him what I do is I do the recordings. I also do the mixing. I'm not so much of a mastering engineer, I must admit. I won't. I'm going to try mastering a little more, but I'd like to get to the mixing level. But I can also help produce as well. Yeah. I'm a musician myself. I have been since I was a kid. Yeah. I can't even remember, but I do understand notation. And when you have people come into the studio that have only ever practiced with themselves, their own little group, and they then go into a studio and want to record, it can be a very daunting thing, because it's not the same as just getting up on stage and playing a song. No. You actually have to understand that what has to happen to make sure that your song sounds correct is we get you to play all the individual, we'll get you to play together, which is called a scratch track. Yeah. And then we'll get overdubs, which is everybody playing individually. Then what we do is we put it through one of them big desks and make it down to 2 channels. So you got your left and your right ear, and then squash it back together. Yeah. So as I say, you can stick a microphone in front of someone and get a sound, but you're not gonna get the sound of the song that you were going for. Yes. Unless you record it in a studio. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's it. Like as I say, I think with stuff nowadays, if you know what you're doing, you can do it yourself incredibly well. Yeah. But you do miss out, the outside ear. And I do really like that aspect of it. Like to be honest, I can see there's huge benefits of both. Yeah. It's up to preference. Like I think doing stuff like I've got little projects I'm playing around with. I'm doing all that in house. Yeah. At home and and doing it all myself. Whereas then other projects I'll get somebody else to do it, or even just another mate that can do some mixing and mastering. Yeah. Because they're going to have a different perspective on it. Even if you're not going to use it, they might do something. You go, oh, that's a good idea. I'll integrate that into my style or whatever. Like I'm an absolute nightmare to have in the studio. Like Phil will kind of definitely agree with this, because I ask a million questions. I'm like, oh, so what's that? So, and asking a bit like I did when I first got here, asking about all your gear. Yeah, no, that was nice. Like I like knowing how the things work, because once you know how they work, then you can almost picture in your head how you want it to go together, how you're going to route everything, and what's the benefit of different things. Like you've got that many different compressors and that many different types of EQs and stuff like that. You could just get totally lost, and I did initially. You get that buried, and I'm sure you did as well. When you start looking into it, you're like, oh god, like why is there so many? I've literally just sat here and thought about basically me getting into recording and having all this stuff in this room that we're sat in is kind of a happy accident. When I first started getting into making music, do you ever remember a program called EJ? No, I don't know. Right, there was a program called EJ. It used to come with hundreds of samples. You used to be able to put the samples into the track, so you get a drum beat together, you get your keys, you get you build yourself a song. I started doing that, when I was, I must have still been in primary school when I first started doing that. And I'd link two computers together through a Zoom 707 effects pedal and make music that way. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't realise. And then a little while later, do you remember a guy called Daniel Bedingfield?
Oh, yes, yeah.
I got to get through this.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first time I'd ever heard about anyone making a hit track. Well, it was a number one hit.
Yeah.
And he did that all within his computer.
The album was number one as well, wasn't it?
I think it might have been.
I think everything just went number one at the time.
Yeah.
But it's because he put the time in and people always say, they talk about, songs that they like, that, the embarrassing songs or whatever. But I like some of his stuff.
I do.
I think his, in terms of arrangement and melodies and the songs, they're catchy as hell, some of them. There's some that I'm less keen on, but I think it was the same with me. I think he was the first kind of person that I heard of that had actually released something. Obviously, you got Jake Bugg, who's local as well.
Oh, I didn't know Jake Bugg was local.
Yeah, he was. He's just over the back. I'm sure he was up Colton.
Oh, right, okay.
I think he's from Colton, Gedlin, somewhere around there. But basically, he did the same kind of thing, if I remember right.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I've just learned something today.
Yeah, but it's if that's if you put the time in, it's like learning anything.
Yeah,
and I think that a lot of people fear, because it is so big, when you get really in there is so much to learn and, to practice.
Well, you never stop learning.
Yeah.
And this is what I was trying to say earlier about people just learning off videos. They're not actually trying to learn how to do things. I was trying to work out in my head how I get one sound to another and then get it onto a CD.
Yeah.
I don't even know what happened to the CDs I made because I made a couple of house albums.
My first recording deck, it was like one of these Zoom like digital mixing, like 8-track digital kind of thing with the CD that I had to put by my own CD record player to put in it.
And do you know what? I always wanted one of them.
Yeah, I've got
never had the money, so I had to do everything in the computer.
Yeah, I didn't have a computer till I was 21, I think, PC, till I was 21. So, but even then, I didn't really do any music on it. Like, I had this deck thing, and it, I've got a demo that I recorded from there, and I still really like it. Obviously, you can tell that it's not done on the latest gear, but it's understanding the levels and making sure that everything's not being drowned out. And you can
but
hear
there's a difference between a good and a bad song.
Yeah.
And a good song that's recorded badly.
Yeah.
And a bad song that was recorded really, really well.
Yeah.
If you can get your head around that.
Yeah, it's like, as I say, I think it's something that if you're out there and you're kind of thinking, oh God, there's so much to learn, it doesn't take a lot to get a song, to record a song and make it sound good.
No.
Obviously, the more your ear gets, the better your ear gets and things, then you'll start going, maybe should have done that a bit different. But to get a song out there, just to get music out there, and that I think that's the point of it all. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're spending, 15 grand on, a top end deck and, desk and everything, or 40 quid on a small MIDI interface for your computer.
That's one thing I didn't tell you about. I was talking to Lewis about all the different gear that I've got, and I get my gear as cheap as possible. I will buy secondhand, I will buy broken, and I'll fix it. Now, my Mac is a Mac Pro 2010. It's got 16 gig of RAM in it. It's 8 cores, and the thing is really, really fast. I paid 50 quid for it.
Yeah.
It's worth about 1,000.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I paid 50 quid for it is because I had to spend another 80 quid on it to pay for a power supply. And all I had to do was remove a few cables, plug this power supply in, and go for it. So it'll only hold you back if you allow it to hold you back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I haven't got the best of gear, but I still, I'm still trying, I'm still learning. So I could go and spend tens of thousands of pounds on stuff, but there's no point at the moment. And what I will do regarding plugins, as I was saying, I'll send you a copy anyway.
Yes, yeah.
I'll actually post a link in the show notes again. I did a PDF and I've posted about 100 free plugins on there. So if you are getting into music or thinking about music or just want to have a nose at what plugins I use, I'll put the link in the show notes, lead you to download the PDF of my studio site.
It's also really worth as well. There's another YouTube channel called Recording Revolution.
Yes.
And he actually recorded an entire song on his mobile phone.
Oh.
And mixed it all with software you can, apps that you can get on your phone. And he did the whole thing on his phone, and it sounds really good. And when you see all this, if you've not got the best amp or the best guitar or the best drum kit or the best mixing deck or what have you, at the end of the day, it's just a tool.
Yeah.
And there's a brilliant example I heard was you could give Steve Vai a 30 quid electric guitar, a cheap practice amp, and he'll make that sound amazing.
I can
is it the gear?
that.
Is it the gear?
No, I don't think it is the gear.
It's understanding how to use what you've got. That is the main thing.
I understand very well how to use nearly everything I've got here now.
To be honest, I'm in the same boat as you. It's all like, keep wanting to get extra bits and all this, but it's more... Just to point out to people, it's more a case of options.
Yeah.
It's not that we can't do what we want to do on what we've got. It's the fact that it's nice to have another option, or it's nice to have.
It certainly is.
Then you can kind of play around a little bit more. Or sometimes it's just a little bit like some people like big fancy cars with really big sound systems.
Yeah.
We just like
some people
mixing decks and
SSLs and stuff like that.
It's less show off.
Yeah. It's actually, there's an acronym for what we've been talking about. It's called GAS. So if you've got gas, it's gear acquisition syndrome.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So if you lust after gear, lust after amps, lust after guitars, I think I'm up to about 15 guitars now. To be honest, if I hadn't sold every guitar I've ever had in the world, I'd probably have about 25, 30, maybe more.
Yeah.
But I keep looking at Les Pauls and going, oh, lovely, shiny, love them. I'll buy it. I'll get it home. I'll play it a couple of times, and I'll be like, nope, it's being sold.
Yes.
I cannot stand playing Les Pauls. I'm a strap man, straight over.
Obviously, there's a lot of issues with them over the past few years, isn't there? Gibson.
Yeah. They seem to be going up and down.
Well, obviously, the quality control went haywire, and like some of the
design.
The designs.
The design of their latest V. Have you seen it?
I've not seen the latest one. No, I saw the one that was the typical Les Paul shape that came out.
They decided to
It was like a cheap kind of entry level one, and everyone was like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah, no, they decided to redesign the Flying V. It now looks like a Star Trek badge.
Oh God.
Yeah, in gold.
Yeah, like you've got to question.
I will post a picture of this because this guitar is, I'm sorry, is the most horrendous guitar I've ever seen. I would not pay for it. I wouldn't even allow someone to buy me one.
Have you been on any message boards where they're discussing Gibson?
No.
The amount of them are just going, just stop, stop fighting about with all of this. Just give us a fucking guitar. Just exactly the same, an old style, straight up.
Yeah,
dual humbucker guitar. That's all we want. We just want the quality that's what they're known for.
Well, that's what
it's
you
like
really want.
You don't
to
want.
be honest.
You don't want extra little switches and stuff.
No.
But obviously, there's a market for that. But you don't like to basically get rid of the originals and then add a load of features and go, well, this is the main one. Like people aren't going to be interested in that. You look at old Gibsons and they're still going for an absolute fortune. They're kind of helping the second-hand market doing what they're doing.
Well, exactly. Even the last podcast I recorded with Matthew Wilson, he said he went to Cash Converters in Newark, and he said it was a couple of grand for a Les Paul in there. And I'm like, well, that's quite a cheap side of Les Paul, I think, still.
Yeah.
But,
well, it's like having Harley Davidsons and making them all electric.
Yeah.
How much would original Harley Davidson sell for?
Yeah.
They're going to sell for an absolute fortune because it's the aesthetics, it's everything about it that is the appeal. So making it silent engine, electric run, obviously it's going to be better for the environment, which is a plus, but you'll find that the second-hand market will rock it because everyone will want one of them.
Well, yeah, I don't...
it's a bit of a weird analogy. I know it's a bit of a weird analogy. It was the first thing that jumped into my head.
You wouldn't lust after a Harley Davidson that's got an electric engine, would
silent, running silent. You want to sit there and scare everyone, right?
Yeah. That's I never thought of that.
But like with Gibsons, it's the aesthetics, and it's because it's a Gibson Les Paul. You don't want some fancy. Otherwise, you'd buy another brand.
But then
But then as we're talking about this and we're talking about the high end of guitars and stuff, don't think as well buying an expensive guitar will make you a better guitar player.
No.
I've got a 40 quid V just behind you.
Oh, yeah.
The one in the corner behind the Kerry King.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
That thing sounds awesome.
Starfire.
It's a cheap 40 quid
Yeah.
V. It was sat on the wall of a pub supposedly for so many years.
Yeah.
And someone sold it, and I love playing it. I love the sound of it. As I say, don't think you have to go and buy the biggest and best to start out with, because at the end of the day, sometimes hobbies don't last.
Yeah. And also, you know, worst case scenario, you can just buy, you know, a couple of new pickups, stick that in.
Well, that's what,
and suddenly
that's what
you've
I
got a
intend on doing.
stupid, like I've got my first ever guitar, which was a Squire.
Oh, right.
A Fender Squire. I've still got it, upgraded all the hardware on it, upgraded the pickups.
Yeah.
And it's totally different guitar. It's a big money making game. I was
my oldest guitar's actually downstairs in my bedroom, so
I was talking to a guy.
I'll have to show you them as well.
There was one of the Bloodstocks. I did artist liaison on a few of the Bloodstocks, and there was a gear guy at one of them that basically, you know, sold gear to the bands and stuff if they needed anything or couldn't bring it over.
Oh, right, okay.
And I got talking to him because I was interested in IEM systems and wireless mics and stuff at the time.
Yeah.
And I says, oh, so what is it that you recommend? And he says, oh, there's these ones here. I was like, oh, brilliant, you know, but what about those ones? Those ones that are like, you know, £400, £500 more? He went, oh, nobody buys those. I went, so why are you selling them? He went, because people will pay for it.
Yeah.
I was like, really? Is it really? And he went, yeah. He says, this is the one that we provide to, I think they were doing Sonosphere and Download and did they do Download? I can't remember. But they provide a lot of the Sennheiser stuff. It's a case of going up a price tag.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily reap the value. What am I trying to say? It's like value quality ratio.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that much of a difference. Like once you get to a certain, you could buy a set of studio monitors for £500.
Yep.
Jumping up to £800, there's going to be a difference, but whether that's a big enough difference, it all depends on what you need, really. Anyone that wants to do music, get yourself some cheap gear and get making music.
Yeah.
And figure out how to use what you've got. There's no point in spending an absolute fortune. It's not going to make you any better. Just practice and graft. And reading and listening to people and message boards and watch loads of YouTube videos and just absorb it all.
But then on the other hand, as I have mentioned, and I'll just specify this again, don't take what someone says at face value.
Yeah.
Just because they're telling you to do it that way doesn't mean you necessarily need to do it that way.
No.
Just try it every way possible and listen. And this is the worst thing about going from a mixing console to a computer is we can now see the music.
Yeah.
And what's going off on the screen doesn't necessarily relate to your ears.
I never use analyzers. I never use spectrum analyzers.
No?
No, I don't see that because
Do
you
you
are
use
literally...
VU meters then?
Generally not. I'll listen. I'll listen
okay.
to. So sometimes if I don't want anything distorting and I don't want that overdrive on there, I'll sometimes make sure it's not totally clipping. But it's a case of if it's going into the red, sometimes that's desirable. Sometimes, especially on vocals, or rock vocals, especially, let it go into the red. Let it add that bit of bite on the top end. I'll get them all balanced so nothing's clipping, and then I'll just move faders about and see what happens and pan it and try and get what I'm actually hearing in my head to come out the speakers. Hear what a lot of producers and stuff talk about. None of them really ever use spectrum analyzer. You've got to use your ears. At the end of the day, it's music. It's like trying to edit film and paying more attention to what the acting is on the screen or something. You're editing the film, focus on what you're doing. Don't and adding visuals and pretty visuals and all of this kind of stuff. Like a lot of the plugins do that as well.
I must admit, I love a sexy plugin.
Oh no, I love the sexy plugins. But what I mean is they've got all the meters and stuff, and it's showing all of this stuff. And the only time I think that visuals are good is if you're hearing something and you're still learning where the frequencies are.
It.
Yeah, you can just do a sweep, and it's obvious you can see that peak. And that's the peak that's causing the trouble. Yeah. That's the only real time that it comes in handy. Otherwise, if you think about it, some of the biggest songs that have ever come out was before computers.
Yep.
Some of the best mixed stuff was before computers.
Yep.
So it aids if you're still new to it, but I don't generally, I try and avoid it because I don't want to get into that.
Something I learned the other week, and it was only off the back of a comment from someone, I can't remember who exactly said it, I think it was on a podcast. You know, when you're playing a guitar and you record an electric guitar, there's a couple of frequencies that you just have to cut completely out.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, if you find the frequency for that guitar and completely cut it out, because it'll be a harsh, horrible frequency, it'll be that frequency every time you record that guitar.
Yeah, I imagine it would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it's not the same for every guitar, but most people think if you record them in different places or do something different, but them frequencies actually stick with that guitar.
Well, it's the same as mics, isn't it? If you've got as I was telling you earlier about the Rode NT1A, it's got that very harsh sibilant top end.
Yeah, which you've changed the capsule on it.
Yeah, changed the capsule on it, but that sibilant top end is going to vary slightly between mics.
Yeah.
But that same one will always be in the exact same place.
Yeah.
So it's all right notching stuff out, but I just thought I'd change the capsule. It's an easy way of doing it, and it means that I'd have to faff about less.
Right, I'm going to move on to the last question, because I think we've talked about special mentions a little bit, which is your love of gear, I think.
Yes.
Unless there's anything else you want to specially mention about yourself.
Not really. No, I just like talking about music and stuff.
That's
what people don't realise is for half an hour previously we've been talking about this. So it just kind of resumed the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Right, the last thing. What hurdles did you personally face and how did you overcome them?
In terms of
life, anything. Give me an example of one time that you had a hurdle and then you worked out a way to overcome it.
I think I kind of covered that with my health stuff earlier. I think that's been the biggest hurdle. I think everything else, there's obviously, especially in the music industry and stuff, there's that many hurdles to come across just there alone. But it's all a case of just taking a step back, looking at how you're doing things and, readjusting. Realize that, it's not the 80s anymore. You're not just going to do a demo and, a record label's going to pick you up. It's more a case of the realistic way of looking at it. And I think if you start off looking at it in the way that you're going to have to do it for yourself, then you're not disappointed or let down, down the road. The time of record labels giving you an absolute fortune. There's one of my favourite bands, Evergrey, a band called Evergrey. They had 120 grand's worth of stuff nicked a few years ago, and they had to stop the tour and everything. Yeah. They're signed, they've released loads of albums, but there's not the if it was EMI back in the day, they'd have just gone, oh, well, here's a load of new gear, there we go. It was all, they'd bought it all. It's all their gear. Yeah. So you've not got that massive budget anymore necessarily.
But don't give up.
No, don't give up. It's not a bad thing. It's basically there was enough problem. There were different problems. There were still problems and still things to overcome back then. It's just that they're different now. And to be honest, looking at the present situation and not being able to get a big record deal and stuff, looking at it in a negative way is not appreciating the benefits.
No.
Because anyone can do it now. Like we discussed earlier, anyone can do it. Anyone can release music and stuff. All you need is to get it out there and get people to notice it.
Yeah, SoundCloud is probably the easiest way I've ever released music. I released 2 albums on there. Or you can pay £20 a year to DistroKid and release as much music as you want. And if people like it, you'll get paid for it.
Yeah.
It's not much, but
yeah. At the end of the day, even when you kind of had the big record labels, they'd obviously give you X amount and stuff, but you wouldn't actually be making anything unless people liked what you do.
Yeah.
So it's still the same situation. It's just that you're not having to pay every single person in the chain a percentage of, if you sell an album for £8, you get £8.
Yeah.
Whereas back then you sold an album for £8 and you got probably a penny.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a fraction because you had to pay the engineers and the producers and the other musicians and the record labels and everything.
And I will say on that point about paying for things to be recorded and stuff. If you speak to people nowadays, about your budget, and I keep saying the same thing to people, and I keep saying it on the podcast. If you want me to record something, tell me what budget you've got. Tell me what you want, and I'll work something out. Mm-hmm. It's like my remote rig, I don't just have one option to it. I can turn up with one channel, I can turn up with 2 channels, I can turn up with 8 channels. Soon I'll be able to turn up with 16 channels, plug in 16 mics and record 16 instances.
Yes, yeah.
But you'll have to have a higher budget to have 16 mics sat there.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It is all. Generally, a lot of people within the music industry will work to whatever your budget is.
Yeah.
If you don't have a lot of money, you'll find people that will do what you want for that budget.
Yeah.
If you've got thousands and thousands of pounds, then there'll be people that'll be more than happy to take that off you as well.
Yeah, exactly. Right, we're going to bring this half of the interview to a close.
Okay.
And we're going to go and have a break, have a cigarette, and then we'll be back.
Excellent.
Right, just wanted to say, as always, if you want to check out the music that's on the podcast, you do actually have to listen through a podcast player. Now let's get on with the second half.
Welcome back to the second half of the interview with Nigel, who's got a parrot on his shoulder. No, we're with Lewis Phillis here. He's from Beacon Lane. He's the lead singer and the guitarist, or one of the guitarists.
Oh, no, just the singer now.
Oh, just the singer now.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Not good enough to be a guitarist anymore.
No, I enjoyed doing both, but I felt like I was compromising a bit. So
No, that's absolutely fine. The reason why I said Nigel with a parrot is my sister-in-law's turned up, and she didn't hear my wife correctly, and so she thought there was a guy up here with a parrot on his shoulder. Which, to be honest, if you're into the alternative scene and you could bring a parrot and have a parrot on your shoulder, I'd love to interview you. Right, cracking on with the interview. What do you love and enjoy about living in Notts? Not so much the alternative scene, but just Notts itself.
Just Notts itself. It's home, really.
Yeah?
It's home to me. It's the place that I've always known. I think the scenery is fantastic, and the kind of trees and nature, and you don't have to go far to find a park. Or, I used to go on holiday a hell of a lot as a kid, camping and caravanning, and it's only 20-minute drive, and you're in the countryside. And also the people. There's the people as well, and you can pretty much find everything you want. You don't have to go a hell of a long way for it.
Yeah, I think some of the comments was, especially the last comment from Matthew Wilson. I keep bringing him up in this podcast for some reason. He actually said it was a perfect sized city.
Yes, yeah. There was something, I can't remember what it was, I was reading the other day, and people were saying, it was something to do with Derby, and the size of things, and they want to try and kind of improve the music scene and everything.
Yeah.
And they were saying that it's a hell of a long way to walk to get to some of the places that, were being mentioned in terms of, putting new venues or things like that.
Yeah.
And it is the thing about Nottingham. Like, I can remember when I was 16, me and a friend at the time, we timed how long it took us to walk from the top end of Victoria Centre right the way to the train station. It's 12 minutes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Or 12 and a half minutes.
I'm just wondering if that counts for the next question I was going to ask you, which is tell us a story or something interesting about Nottingham.
Robin Hood used to be here. We've got the castle, or we had the castle.
Yeah, it's under refurbishment at the moment.
Yes, yeah, it's.
I can't remember the date that it's going to be reopened, but supposedly they're opening more caves.
Yes, yeah. There's been a lot of excavation recently over the past few years, and they're finding more and more stuff about. But I suppose one of the things that people don't realise about Nottingham is it used to be a massive mining town.
Yeah,
like Victoria Centre used to be the coal mining station.
Yeah,
train station, and like I've seen photos that my grandma's shown me, and things of that time. But that clock tower was actually part of the initial station.
Well, you definitely. I'm not going to give the surprise away, but you definitely need to listen to the next one, which will be number 5.
Okay.
But this one will be number 6 now.
Yes,
So now that's it just blown my mind again. But yeah, no, definitely have a listen. The chap I'm speaking to is going to say something that you'll find very interesting.
All right. Okay.
Very interesting. So is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Not really, no.
Okay.
No, I'm kind of
I'm going to tell you something interesting.
Okay.
Now. If you go to Nottingham Castle and you walk from the castle pub down to the old trip.
Yes.
Right? If you look along the cliff face, some of it is actually fiberglass rocks.
Is it?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yep. Next time you walk along there, you see all them little doors and everything in the side of the wall.
Yeah.
But some of that is actually fiberglass rocks.
Was that like reinforcement?
I haven't got a clue. I would have thought it's reinforcement, but
fiberglass is. I suppose if they've had to put steel structures, put some fiberglass in front, and I'll have to check that one out.
yeah, definitely worth checking out.
If you ever see a weirdo kind of like knocking along the rocks, it'll be me.
Right. What is your most favourite part of Notts or Nottinghamshire?
Probably Woollerton Park.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love Woollerton Park. It's with the deer and the wildlife and everything. Oh, Attenborough Nature Reserve.
Yeah?
It's another one. As I say, I got brought up. I love the countryside and love.
I must admit, I do enjoy both of them because they've got the engineering museum at Woollerton, which I haven't been to yet.
Yeah.
Big into engineering, and I haven't been there yet. But I think the one thing that some people actually probably don't know is Batman was filmed at Woollerton, wasn't it?
Yeah, Batman. Yeah, that was the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
No, Rise of the Dark Knight. The last one.
Yeah.
Rise of the
I
Dark.
can't remember which one.
Rise of the Dark Knight. The one with Bane.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was his house is actually Woollerton Park.
Yeah.
But I missed the dinosaur thing recently that was down there. I really want to go to that. They had like loads of life-size dinosaurs all over the place. And I missed that.
I kept seeing that. And
it was in October, and I really wanted to go. And then
I just keep having nightmares from Jurassic Park. So
I actually had a nightmare from the first because I was 13 when that came out.
Yeah,
and I can remember there was at one point there was like a shock. I think it was when the Dilophosaurus frill went, and my seat folded up at the same time because I was sat a bit too far back, and it scared me to death. And then I was having nightmares of being chased by a raptor down aircon, air ducts for like the next week.
Oh dear! Right, what is your most treasured musical object? It doesn't have to be an instrument.
It's probably my electroacoustic guitar. I'm in the middle of refurbing it at the moment, but when it's functional, it basically just sits on my lap. Yeah. Anytime I'm in the house or anytime it's always within arm's reach, just so I can kind of twiddle and doodle. It's one of those things that when you get the question, what would you take to a desert island? Yeah, it would be that.
Yeah, no, I think that's something I'd definitely take to a desert island.
Yeah,
because music I think you can tell by both of us, we're big into music, so it definitely you couldn't be anywhere without some form of musical instrument, even if I had to make one myself.
Yeah. I think when it comes into other music objects, I've never been really one to have treasured possessions in terms of CDs or picks and things like that.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to any kind of other musical stuff, you don't need it. Like we were talking about earlier, you don't need it all as long as you've got something. And the thing I like about the guitar as well is because it's a super shallow bowl.
Yeah.
It's like having an electric guitar, but you get that nice warmth.
Yeah.
From like the acoustic, still strung, but definitely that. I think save one thing out your flat or desert island or whatever, it'll always be that.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. Right, alt, rock, metal, or other. What got you into the genre?
Like I was saying earlier, a lot of it I got into, like, I really like Meatloaf.
Oh, right.
That got me into it a little bit. And, like, into music in general, but it was Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
That was the big one. So full-on metal.
Yeah.
I like everything, though. Like, some of my favourite bands at the moment are, like, Arian and Pain of Salvation and stuff. They're all prog metal.
Yeah.
But I think every single type of genre of music has had some kind of impact on me in one form or another. Whether it's just the pictures that they paint or it's, the way that the songs are structured or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think everything's had an influence, but I think that's the answer to the question. Is that the question?
Yes, yeah,
is that the question?
That's cool.
But metal's the main thing. Iron Maiden.
So I think you've definitely answered the next one. Then, what is your most influential band or artist?
Weirdly, Iron Maiden from the start, but nowadays it's more artists. So there's people like Roy Khan that was in Camelot. He's back in Conception now. Like Conception's a massively influential band on me.
Oh, Veil of Elysium.
That's Camelot, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that song.
That's with their newer singer.
Is it?
It was March of Mephisto and Ghost Opera and all of the earlier ones. But yeah, Roy Khan, the expression and tone of his voice is just phenomenal. Then you've got guys like Jorn Lander, who's been in Masterplan and God knows how many other projects. Jorn as well. You've got guitarists, Jean Viggo Lofstad. It's a lot of European musicians, mainly from like Scandinavia. You've got Norway and Sweden and stuff like that. A lot of my influences come from Arjen Lucassen. So I think probably the biggest influential band on me at the moment is Arian by Arjen Lucassen. It's just amazing what he's done with music. Like so many styles all meshed in together and all different guest vocalists and stuff, and it's inspired me a hell of a lot.
Oh, that's really cool. Again, I'm going to be sat there listening through in post-production, trying to get all these names into the show notes.
I'll send you links.
No, that's fine. If I'm not sure, I will ask. And that's something that you have to do nowadays. If you're not sure about something, ask. Don't make it up. Yeah. Because someone's probably already had the issue.
Also, it's nice to kind of like I quite like discovering new music all the time. Every time I hear something new, I'm one of those people that will sit on YouTube and just go to the links. Yeah. The suggested links and stuff, and listen to all bands, and you go down that rabbit hole. And the amount of bands and stuff that you kind of hear, and you're just like, how have I never heard of these before? It's just.
That's what I love about going to Bloodstock, because when you've got what's going on the main stage, sometimes I find that I'm not necessarily into it. Yeah. But I will, and for the foreseeable future, I'll be going to Bloodstock. And it's mainly because I love going to the New Blood stage. I love going to the Jägermeister stage and the Sophie stage, because there's so many bands that I don't know. I think I found out about a band called Obsidian. Yeah. And I really enjoyed their stuff and ended up getting a free copy of their CDs. So it was more music in my bucket.
It's the same way when you do like gigs around town and stuff. Like I always used to try, it's been less so recently, as I say, but I used to always try and get down, just go to random, see who's playing on at the Sal or see who's playing on the Tap. And, it's the best way to discover new music. And there's so many phenomenal musicians and bands out there. You just miss them if you don't.
Yeah. No, I think that's really cool. Okay, name one thing you're excited about in the next 6 months.
The next 6 months? Christmas.
Yeah?
No, start of a new year. I think 2018's it's had its ups and downs. But I'm looking forward to kind of, looking forward and starting fresh. Yeah. Like we've got, there'll be our album coming out at some point. I don't know whether that will be in the next 6 months. Yeah. I hope it will be. But yeah, there's
going to be a new adventure next year for you, isn't it? Really,
building my vocal booth.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that.
I'm looking forward to building my vocal booth so I can actually practice at home again and sing my ass off without disturbing everyone. I'm always a little bit kind of, careful about sound and everything, but I think even if you like rock and metal, I don't think you necessarily want to hear somebody wailing away all hours of the day. Because I used to try and practice about 4 hours a day. Yeah. And that's a hell of a lot.
I'm getting really bad. I kept saying to myself, I must practice at least 20 minutes a day, and I really struggle at the moment. Yeah. And it's a bit of a shame because, as I said, I'm starting new projects and I'm finding my skills aren't as good on guitar as what they have been. Yeah. And without practice, and it'll take me about 30 minutes to get warmed up, whereas about 5 years ago, I'd have picked up a guitar and just played as well as I play every day. But it's
I think
one thing you have to stick at.
I think the most difficult instruments to kind of, learn and practice is vocals and drums. Yeah. Like you've got to either have an electric drum kit like you have here. Yeah. Or you've got to, or you can only do it in the studio or live somewhere where people aren't going to mind you doing it. And same with vocals. Like, you can sing quietly to yourself, but it's completely different because because it's more of a, it includes a lot of musculature to sing. The last thing you want really is to kind of be at home and, you might sound absolutely amazing singing nice and quiet, but as soon as you've got that pressure, that air pressure behind your vocal cords, and you realise that they're not conditioned to handle it, you're going to blow your voice out straight away. So you've got to really practice how you're planning on singing, and I'm not exactly quiet.
No, I must.
Well, when I was in an old band, they always used to say, "Oh, are you sure you want a mic?"
Yeah,
I really go for it. But I want to make sure that about 6 years ago, I had to have a polyp removed from one of my vocal cords.
Yeah,
due to acid reflux and partly due to all my health stuff as well. And I've not really been able to get my range back.
Yeah.
At one point, I think it was about 5.5 octaves I had. I'm a lot better controlled now at the lower ones, but I'd just love to be able to get that top end range back.
Yeah.
I've just not been able to, just due to where I've been living. I don't think they'll appreciate me, like, doing my best Rob Halford.
Yeah.
Day and night.
No.
So yeah, my vocal booth I'm looking forward to getting.
No, that's very interesting. And do you want to explain a bit more what a vocal booth is?
Yeah, a vocal booth, they're kind of an isolation booth as well. It's basically an area. Some people use wardrobes or cubbyholes or anything, and it's just so it's resistant to sound, so people outside of it aren't going to necessarily hear. You can also get ones as well. So basically, if you're trying to record something, you've not got external sounds affecting your recordings. But it's basically when you go into a music studio, it's the equivalent of one of those, really.
Yeah.
And I'm planning on building one just the right size for one person in there.
Yeah.
Just so I can, practice and record if I want. And it's, you can actually build them. You were saying from engineering background, like my dad's been an engineer his entire life. I was an engineer for a period of time. So you've got to be, if you've got that kind of mentality about you can kind of see how they go together, and you start like planning it all. And so I'm basically going to build it from raw materials and building my own, because to buy one, you're looking at £2,500.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to, do a fraction of that, a fifth of that. I think it's going to cost me to build one. So
I think that's really cool, and I definitely want to see pictures.
Yes, yeah.
So I might even actually have to turn up at some point.
I'm actually planning. I was originally thinking, I can do a video, like, a YouTube series.
Yeah.
Just so then people out there that want to kind of build their own, because there's a lot of stuff out there, but the amount of times I've like watched one and it's like, and if you get this frame and stick a duvet over it, and you're like, well, it's okay to kind of keep the noise out, but you're not really stopping your voice affecting everyone. So I'm thinking of filming it anyway, whether it's for my own kind of just my own records, or if I want, to put it out there. I think I will put it out. I think people will get some benefit out of it, even if you want to build a small one just for miking up amps or something.
I'll definitely listen to it.
But it's it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, but if you actually see from the pictures, my place is it's not so much isolated from noise, so the noise can escape, but what it is the reflections and stuff.
Yeah.
So I've got curtains hung everywhere, really thick curtains, and I've got big polystyrene panels, and all it's doing, and this is the thing you have to realise, what Lewis is building is a sound isolation, and what a lot of studios tend to have, like if you put up egg cartons, it's not going to stop the noise getting out, but what it's going to stop is the noise coming back at your mic.
Yes.
Because you'll talk to your mic and then it'll go past your mic, hit the wall and come back and go back into the mic.
Yeah.
But there is a big difference.
Yeah,
there.
I was just about to say there's a lot of confusion in terms of either, like as you say, isolation or soundproofing.
Yeah.
And sound treatment.
Yeah.
Or room treatment, like, as you've got here, this is room treatment, whereas soundproofing is...
You can tell them I've got egg boxes on my ceiling.
Yes.
Literally egg boxes. I thought it was quite a nice touch.
Yeah, you could go very rustic.
Yeah. Unfortunately, no eggs in there. Right then, let me get to the last question. In your opinion, what makes the Notts alternative scene great?
Everyone working together.
Yeah?
everyone working together. You've got so many awesome promoters out there. As I say earlier, nowadays they're all working together and helping each other. You've got such a camaraderie when it comes to musicians and bands, and everyone willing to help everyone else out. Obviously, I only know really Nottingham. This could be in other cities as well, for all I know. But you've got so many good promoters and stuff going on, and such a lively music scene.
I'm hopefully going to be speaking to a lot more people, like not just within the Notts boundary, but I'm going to be speaking with people from Mansfield and all that area and Warsop and everything.
Oh yeah. Like generally, I kind of regard Nottingham as being that kind of size. I don't necessarily just think just the city centre. You've got so many. Like you've obviously got people like IK Promotions that do like the Macmillan Fests.
Yes.
You've got like Torturous Promotions who do all your
Phil Court.
Phil Court.
Phil, if you're listening to this, yes, I'm still waiting for you to come and do your interview. And I know you've been ill, but get your ass here.
If I can come down, you can, dude. You've also got like new startups like Pretty Maggots. The one recently.
I'm hopefully going to be interviewing him as well.
Yes, there'll be some awesome things. I'm sure there'll be some awesome gigs coming up in the future. But it's every time one tends to disappear, you've got three more cropping up in its place, and it's. Everyone works together. Everyone helps each other.
I'm going to be speaking to Cy as well soon from the No Hate Festival.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And Bud as well, because he's got stuff coming up as well. So hopefully I'll be speaking to them soon.
Yeah, you've also got,
It's just the wrong time of year to get people here, to be honest.
It's all cold and raining.
Yeah.
Then you've got obviously all your music nights and things as well, whether you're like goth or indie or rock or metal or whatever you're into.
Part of the alternative scene you're catered for.
Well, to be honest, I think it goes further than that. I think if you like your jazz or your blues and stuff, like, the Bell puts on some jazz.
I've been speaking new manager landlady at the Lion.
Mm-hmm.
They put on jazz on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as I say, you've got that many options. As I say, I don't know if I assume other cities will have it to some extent. And have the same thing, because as I say, I think it's more of a countrywide resurgence.
Yeah.
We had that bit of a lull, 5-6 years ago, but I think it's all getting on the right track again. And the way that everyone supports each other, as I say, that is the main thing. The fact that everyone supports everyone and everyone helps. As I say,
I must admit,
even when we did the No Hate Festival, about people like yourself, just giving you time to come and help out the bands, and it's just awesome that there is that. And Macmillan, same, it's all volunteers.
Yeah.
And that many people wanting to see the live music scene stay alive.
Yeah.
I think there's no better time than
even
now
Laura
to actually get out there.
Even Laura at the NTU Loft.
Yes,
She's putting on loads. She's doing really well. Hopefully I'll get to speak to her on the mic soon.
Yes,
so.
yeah. As I say, there's that many. It's the best time, I think, now to either getting to, whether it's music or promotion or anything, because there's that many people that are out there that are kind of, needing the support.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'd love to see Nottingham become one of the central hubs for it.
Yeah.
I'd love people to go, let's go to Nottingham. There's all sorts of stuff. I already know that there's certain nights on where people will travel all over the country to come here. But, long may it continue.
Yes, definitely.
Makes our jobs easier.
Yes, definitely. Right. Is there any shout-outs you'd like to give before we come to a close?
I think I've done a lot of shout-outs throughout the interview, haven't I?
Okay.
But yeah, I can't think off the top of my head. Phil Wilbraham. There we go. Our lovely producer, Phil.
Yes.
Yeah, he's from Electric Bear Studios. Like if you actually have money and you want some really good recording and stuff, there's a good place to go, Mansfield. And also Stuck on a Name Studios.
Yep.
And Balti,
Gonna have to speak to them as well, aren't I?
Yes, you're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Especially because they're as central as they are.
Yeah.
Literally every single band goes to some of these places.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely. Other than that, I'm kind of running running dry.
Right then, we're going to bring this to a close. Thank you very much, Lewis, for turning up
Thank you
today.
very much. Thank you very much.
As I said, check out everything within the show notes. You can find it at NottsRockCast.co.uk.
Thank you very much, Knots Rockers, for listening to Knots Rockcast over YouTube. If you would like to check us out on your favourite podcast player, please search Knots Rockcast. And don't forget, if you're on social media platforms, give us a like, give us a share. You'll find us at Knots Rockcast. Anyway, till next time, keep it Knots, keep it rocks.
Nott's Rockcast is an association with Regular Riot. Welcome to Nott's Rockcast, the Nott's Alternative Scene podcast. And here is your host, Jethro D, bringing you everything Knots and Rock.